Hi everyone, this is Dr. Tanmayi Pangaluri, current D2 student at NYU. Today here I am just to share my 2 cents about my interview experience at IU and NYU. I'm accepted at both the universities, so I'll just share with you what I had during my interview sessions. Uh, this cycle, my first interview was at IU, and in terms of timeline, the interview invite was sent to me on August 1st, whereas my interview was scheduled on August 6th. And the interview decisions were out by August 26th. So it is a pretty short time, and Indiana is slightly fast in doing the process and sending out the acceptances. On the interview day, as you all know, this year, because of the pandemic, it is a virtual interview and there is no bench test this year. And the interview was only for 20 minutes of duration. And it is really hard to keep our cool during that 20 minutes because we usually expect the interviews to be slightly long so that we can share our stories and experiences. But Indiana has just 20 minutes of interview this year. And I think they tried to cover all the aspects before itself because they also included CASPER exam this year in the application process prior to the interview. So I'm assuming that they might have already been evaluating us on our ethical scenarios as well. And in the 20 minutes of interview, I was interviewed by 2 faculty members. And the conversation was really light and laid back. It was not typically like an interview. It was more like a conversation. And currently this year, mainly because of the pandemic, most of my questions are related to the COVID. I remember a few of the typical questions which they asked me were how COVID affected me and what was I doing during this lockdown situation where there's no way that we can go out and pursue our volunteering or shadowing opportunities. And how did I work on my profile during this time and what changes I made? And I was also given a hypothetical scenario where a patient came into a dental school to receive a treatment and he's not willing to wear a mask. So they asked me, if you were the student who was allotted for that patient, what would you do and how would you address the situation? This was the question which they asked me, and I think the interview went well. They're expecting more to keep your view and thought process rather than just giving the straightforward answers. And the other hypothetical question which I was asked is, if I was a dentist having my own dental practice, and if the COVID happened at that time, what hurdles would I be facing, and what would be my solutions to all the problems which are created during this time? And in my interview, there was not much theoretical questions, whereas I heard from a few of my peers that they were also questioned on the clinical aspects. But to me, it was mostly COVID-related questions, and I think it's a generalized conversation. And in terms of NYU, it's slightly different because NYU has a long interview. It is 1 hour long, and it is one-on-one interview. So it's just one faculty and me. And the interview was also very conversational style. It is not like a regular typical interviews where we think that they'll be asking us a list of questions and we would be answering those. To my surprise, my first question was not tell me about yourself, whereas it is on COVID. And they asked me how COVID affected me this year and what was I doing during the lockdown. As I was already doing a job with Virginia Department of Health as COVID-19 case investigator, I was pretty confident on this topic. And I remember my conversation with NYU faculty was about 30 minutes just on COVID. We were just talking about what are the current guidelines, what changes have been made, and going forward, what will be the challenges and what will be the better solutions to put on. So the first 30 minutes was very conversational style. We were just talking about COVID. And I think even my master's in public health has helped me in this issue because I was also talking more on social determinants of health, which the current states is facing at that time. And I think the next 30 minutes was slightly geared towards regular type of interview, where they asked me why dentistry, why NYU, all those questions. I think we should be in a situation where we can gear our interview toward in a certain direction, because I think I did a pretty good job in that scenario, and I was I was trying to make them ask the questions which I am prepared for, so that I can explain better. A few other questions which were asked in NYU interview are ethical scenarios, and what are my future goals, like short-term and long-term goals. And they also asked me what do I do in my free time. So try to add some humor to your interview at this stage by cracking some jokes. The faculty really loves when you're just yourself, when you're not scared, and when you're really confident in your own skin. And I remember as they asked me one question, which is like, how are you keeping up with your hand skills during this COVID scenario? Because I was not allowed to go out and practice do shadowing or volunteering anywhere. So I said them that I do have a home bench setup where I try to improve my hand skills, share the prepared tooth pictures with my friends and peers, and try to get some feedback from them. And the professor was really shocked. I think all the students do this, but I don't know, for some reason, we don't share this with the faculty. And I think that kind of helped me. I said that I do have a bench setup at home and I practice on it regularly. In my personal opinion, the faculty this year are clearly aware of all the constraints because of COVID, and all they're looking for is your effort even during this time. They know that you wouldn't be able to go out and do many things like the other applicants in the previous cycles. They do understand it and they do respect it. So all you just need to show them is that you're still trying to be in the path and trying to get admission in the process by doing everything which you can, and even in this uncertain times. To conclude, few of the interview tips which helped me and which I want to share with you all is try to get hold of the Zoom interviews. So start practicing with your friends or other family members on Zoom, and also try to attend as many mock interviews as you can, because only when you do mock interviews you will know where you're lacking and what are your strengths and weaknesses. Then you can address those better. So don't straight away go into interview even though you're really good at conversations. Try to attend mock interviews and learn from them. And one really good advice which I received was keep your stories as like trailers. Don't share all the answers. Don't elaborate at the first hand itself. Just show them the trailer. Like just give some hints of what your experiences are, and when then the professors will be really interested in it, and they'll be asking you the upcoming questions. That way you can guide your interview as well. When they ask you those follow-up questions, then you can elaborate much. Because as I said, IU has only 20 minutes of interview, so there isn't enough time for me to share all my experiences. So I was just giving the headings of all of them, and when they'll be asking us questions in which they are interested and they want us to talk about, then we can elaborate much more. And because if we start elaborating in the first hand itself, we wouldn't be giving much time to the professors. They will not be assessing us on all the questions which they plan to ask. So it's better not to elaborate on the very first hand itself. Give some hook lines. You can summarize and let them know that these are the three important things which I worked on. And if you're really interested, I'm happy to elaborate. You can share such things with them. And one more advice which I received is it's okay to take a pause and gather your thoughts. Whenever they ask any question, don't just straight away rush to answer it. You can take a pause. You can clearly ask them, is it okay if I can just take a minute to gather my thoughts? Be composed, be confident, and lastly, smile more often. That clearly shows how confident you are. Thank you. Take care.